Sometimes requests to a URL will return an unsuccessful response. We can tell the response was unsuccessful by looking at the status code of the response object. Examples of unsuccessful status codes are a 400 bad request code, a 404 not found code, or a 500 internal server error code. To handle these error codes, we will create a new script with the request library imported. Next, we will create a new response object R and set this equal to request.get. Within the get function, we will add the URL http://bin.org/status/404. This URL is an endpoint setup to return a response object with a 404 status code. When we call the raise_for_status function on the response object R, an HTTP error will be raised. This function will raise an HTTP error when the status code for the response object is a client error, any status code in the 400s, or a server error, which is any status code in the 500s. If we call raise_for_status on a response object that has a 200 status code, an error will not be raised, and instead will return the value none. Another common exception is a timeout exception. This occurs if 0 bytes from the server are received for a defined period of time. To define the number of seconds for the request library to wait for a response from the server, we can use the timeout keyword in our get function. To replicate a timeout error, we will set the value of the timeout keyword to 1/10 of a second. This amount of time will raise a timeout error because the server at HTTP bin will not be able to send a response within 1/10 of a second. It is good practice to define a timeout value for each request made because this will prevent the program from hanging or waiting too long for a non-responsive server. For more Python tutorials, like, share, and subscribe to the PyPros channel.